Commander James Reeves stood in the ceremonial hall of the Crathery flagship, his jaw tight as he processed what the alien war chief had just declared. The translator implant in his skull rendered the guttural words into crisp English. The peace treaty between humanity and the Crathari Dominion would be sealed through marriage, and he had been selected as Earth's representative. The woman who stepped forward from the gathered Crathari warriors made James's breath catch, though not from admiration. She was nearly 7 feet tall, her muscled frame covered in traditional combat leathers that bore the scars of 100 battles. Her skin held a faint golden hue, and her eyes burned with barely concealed fury. Twin braids of copper hair fell past her shoulders, woven with small bones that James suspected came from defeated enemies. "This is Kara, daughter of our greatest general," the war chief announced. "She will be your mate, human, as our customs demand." Kara's lip curled as she looked James up and down. At 6 feet and built like most Earth soldiers, he was strong by human standards, but appeared almost delicate compared to the Crathari present. She spoke, and his translator converted her words with clinical precision. "I refuse this insult," Kara declared, her voice carrying across the hall. "I am a first-rank warrior. I have killed Varantini beasts with my bare hands and led raids against the collective armadas. I will not be given to this soft-skinned creature who has never proven himself worthy." The war chief's expression darkened. "The treaty requires this union, daughter of my blood. You know our law. Then let him try to claim me according to our law," Kara shot back, turning her burning gaze on James. "If he can defeat me in single combat, I will accept him as custom demands. But if he cannot, then he is not worthy to stand beside a Crathari warrior, and this treaty is meaningless." James felt every eye in the chamber focus on him. His commanding officer, General Brooks, stood among the human delegation with a carefully neutral expression, but James could read the tension in the older man's shoulders. This treaty had taken 3 years to negotiate. Humanity needed the Crathari as allies against the encroaching Void Empire, and everyone in this room knew it. "What are the terms?" James asked, keeping his voice level. Kara's eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected him to accept. "Hand-to-hand combat. No weapons beyond what we can fashion from our environment. The fight continues until one yields or cannot continue. And if I win, you'll honor the marriage bond? If you win, human, I will accept you as the treaty demands." She paused, then added with obvious skepticism, "But you will not win." The combat arena was prepared within hours. The Crathari constructed it in the cargo bay of their flagship, a circular space 50 meters across with various obstacles: metal pillars, scattered crates, and hanging chains. James was given time to prepare in a small antechamber, while Kara did the same elsewhere. General Brooks found him doing stretches. His standard-issue combat suit replaced with the simple cloth pants and wrapped hands the Crathari had provided. "You don't have to do this, Commander," Brooks said quietly. "We can find another way." "What other way?" James replied, rolling his shoulders. "They've made it clear this is non-negotiable. Besides, she's right in a way. If their culture values strength, I need to prove I'm not some weakling they're being forced to accept. She's trained since childhood in their combat arts. You're a tactical officer, not a close-quarters specialist." James managed a tight smile. "Then I'd better fight smart instead of hard." When he entered the arena, the stands were packed with Crathari warriors, their combined presence creating a wall of golden skin and battle-scarred muscle. The human delegation occupied a small section, looking distinctly uncomfortable. Kara already waited in the center of the ring, rolling her shoulders with the casual confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. The war chief raised one massive hand, and silence fell. Let the trial of strength begin. May the worthy prevail. Kara moved the instant the signal was given, closing the distance between them with frightening speed. James barely rolled aside as her fist cratered the metal deck where he'd been standing. He used a support pillar to create distance, circling around it as she pursued. "Running already, human?" Kara called out, her voice carrying a note of disappointment. I expected at least a brief challenge. James didn't waste breath on a response. He observed her movements, cataloging the way she favored direct attacks, how she moved with the assumption that her superior strength would overcome any defense. She was fast and powerful, but she fought like someone who had always been the strongest person in the room. When she lunged again, James dropped low and swept at her legs. She jumped over the attempt easily, but it forced her to adjust her trajectory. He used that split second to grab one of the hanging chains, swinging himself up and around a horizontal support beam. Kara's eyes tracked him with predatory focus. Clever, but you cannot hide forever. She was right. James knew he couldn't win a battle of endurance against someone with her physical advantages. He needed to change the nature of the fight itself. As Kara climbed after him, James dropped back to the deck and sprinted for a cluster of crates. He grabbed a length of discarded metal piping, testing its weight. Not ideal, but it would do. Weapons are forbidden, Kara growled, landing nearby with barely a sound despite her size. This is fashioned from our environment, James countered, echoing her earlier words. According to the rules you set. Her expression shifted into something that might have been approval. So the human has teeth after all. The fight intensified. Kara grabbed a section of chain as her own improvised weapon, and the cargo bay rang with the clash of metal on metal. James used every trick he'd learned in his military career, treating the arena like a hostile environment to navigate rather than a simple fighting ring. He used the obstacles, the shadows, the occasional misdirection. But Kara was learning too. She began to anticipate his movements, cutting off his escape routes, forcing him into more direct confrontations. When her chain wrapped around his pipe and yanked it from his hands, James knew his time was running out. They faced each other across the arena, both breathing hard, both bearing fresh bruises. Kara's lip was split, and James knew he had at least one cracked rib from a glancing blow that had felt like being hit by a transport vehicle. You fight well for your kind, Kara acknowledged. But this ends now. She charged, and James made a decision. Instead of evading, he charged too, dropping into a slide at the last moment. His wrapped hands grabbed her leading ankle, and he used every ounce of his momentum to twist and throw. For the first time in the fight, Kara hit the ground. The arena went silent. James didn't give her time to recover. He rolled onto her back, wrapping his arms around her neck in a chokehold he'd learned from humanity's ancient martial traditions. She was stronger, but he had position, and in grappling, technique could overcome raw power. Kara thrashed, her superior strength nearly breaking his hold 3 times. James held on with desperate determination, adjusting his grip each time, redirecting her power rather than opposing it directly. Seconds stretched like hours. His cracked ribs screamed protest. His arms burned with effort. Then, finally, Kara's hand slapped the deck 3 times. The signal of submission. James released her immediately, rolling away and gasping for air. The arena remained silent for another heartbeat, then erupted in a roar from the Cratheri spectators. It wasn't cheering exactly, more like the sound of warriors acknowledging an unexpected victory. Kara rose slowly, one hand rubbing her throat. She looked at James with an expression he couldn't quite read, then extended her hand to help him stand. He took it, and she pulled him up with casual ease. "You are cleverer than you look, human," she said, and this time there was no mockery in her tone. "You fought like a Cratheri hunter facing a larger predator, with intelligence and adaptability. Perhaps you are not unworthy after all." "James," he corrected, still catching his breath. My name is James. Something shifted in her expression. James, she repeated, testing the word. I am Kara, and it seems I am now your wife, as our law demands. The ceremony that followed was brief by Crathari standards, though still elaborate by human ones. Kara stood beside James before the war chief, and when asked if she accepted this bond, her voice rang clear and strong. I accept. He has proven himself in combat. He is worthy to stand as my equal. Later, as the celebrations continued around them, Kara pulled James aside to a quieter corner of the flagship. I must confess something, she said, her usual fierce expression softening slightly. I hoped you would accept my challenge. Too many Crathari males sought my hand only for the status my lineage would bring. They never saw me as a warrior, only as a prize. James met her eyes steadily. And what do you see when you look at me now? A warrior who fights with his mind as much as his body. A mate who earned his place rather than demanding it. She paused, then added with something that might have been a smile. And someone who will make our inevitable sparring sessions interesting. Inevitable? Among my people, married warriors train together. It is how we grow stronger. Her smile became more pronounced. I hope you heal quickly, James. I have much to teach you, and you have much to prove if you wish to keep up with a Crathari wife. James looked at this fierce golden warrior who